It's a beautiful morning, the last Saturday in August of 2019, and we are headed up toward Mummy Mountain. We're on the east side, and you see a series of three washes that look like a delta. They spread out, fan out upwards. Also looks like a funnel. Well, the middle wash is our first destination. Now, there are no trails after we pass Mummy Springs, but I've attempted a few different routes up the mountain. I usually end up to this point. I end up sucked up in this direction. You see that rock there on the left? Right at the base of that rock is where I've ended up in the past. So I'm going to find out how to traverse Mummy Mountain on the east side and see if I can hit the middle delta right there, and then head on up to the top. Either that or the right delta would get me up there to the top. But getting there is the challenge. It's through forest and fallen trees and rocks that are boulders and smaller rocks. It's just not a good running or walking surface. But if I can get to those deltas, those washes, then that's we'll have achieved something at least. See what happens then getting to the top from there. You can see there's a pretty substantial cliff up there, but I believe there are a couple routes up that cliff through hidden canyons. We're going to see if we can get that far. So that's our goal for the day. And here we are at the North Loop trailhead in the Spring Mountains, just about 30 miles outside of Las Vegas. So, and if, looking down in this direction is another one of our targets, which is that, let's see, let's go over here just a minute. That tall mountain, you can, it's not real easy to see from this direction with the sun shining on us, but that tall mountain, you see a couple mountains, the tall one on the left, the tallest, is La Madre Mountain. That'll be another one of our goals at some point. And then just looking around here, this is the direction of Fletcher Peak. So you pretty much see where we are. And then, of course, there's some mountains to the right of Mummy Mountain. Again, there's Mummy Mountain. Here's a few mountains to the right. We'll explore those at some point. So here we go. Okay, here we are at one of my favorite spots on the North Loop Trail. And this is where it opens up for the first time into a little plateau from which you've got a view of your surroundings. And here we're looking at Mummy Mountain. You can see to the left, if you went a little further, you would encounter the toe of Mummy Mountain. And at the base of the toe is Rain Tree. Okay, so we're going to circle on up this trail, the main trail of the North Loop, and we're going to hit that, we're going to hit Rain Tree and then take a right, head toward Mummy Springs, which may be right in this area. You see that wash there just beyond the trees. That's the area of Mummy Springs. We're going to head up after that. What we need to do is we take a right at that wash and then traverse that forest area, a little downhill in the process, and then hit the delta of 3 washes, find the second one, and then head up that wash. There's a little opening at that base of that cliff, little canyon. We're going to see how that works. If that doesn't work, then we'll head up the right wash there. It looks like there's an approach that is doable. So there you have it. And by the way, a little trail tip for you. Before your trail day, do not eat at a Las Vegas buffet. All you can eat. And that's what I did last night. It's not feeling horribly bad right now, but I'm just a little sluggish compared to my normal trail experience or conditioning. By the way, you see that band of trees halfway up the cliff? That second wash, middle wash of the delta, ends up right at that band of trees. It should end there, and there's a ledge. You take a right at the ledge and then go to the end of that band of trees, take a left, and on up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Hopefully I'll be able to do all that. The whole key is to get to that delta there and find that middle wash. And there's, as you can see, there's some uncharted territory between Mummy Springs and that point. So we shall see what happens there. And by the way, we're looking up toward the area of Fletcher Peak. I don't think that is actually Fletcher Peak. I think Fletcher Peak is behind this green hill. But after this point in the trail, there are going to be a series of like 14 switchbacks that go up, 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 up. And then your main climbing, at least on the trail, is done. When you get to the top of those switchbacks, it's pretty much done. Then you circle around to Rain Tree and then over to Mummy Springs, and then cross country through that band, that large forest there. We'll see if there's some kind of a trail. I doubt it. I haven't found it yet. Over to the delta, and then on up the middle delta, and through a little canyon at the top of that delta to that up to that band of trees, take a right, and then at the end of that band of trees halfway up the cliff, take a left, and it's an easy, once I hit that band of trees, it's an easy ascent to the summit. But it's just getting there that's going to be the big challenge. I've made numerous attempts, and here's another one today. Okay, signing off, and we're heading up the switchbacks. By the way, another look at that beautiful plateau, and a little bit of a view from the backside of that plateau. And if the sun were not blocking it out, you'd be seeing La Madre Mountain straight ahead, the highest peak of those silhouetted peaks there. I just wanted to add at this point that it took about 30 minutes to get to this plateau. Okay. And this plateau. Okay, onward. Well, here we are at the top of that series of switchbacks, 14 switchbacks. And it took about 25 minutes to get to this point from where we were last from that plateau. Not too bad, nothing to whine about. Anyway, the reason I'm showing you this is that at this point there's a split in the trail, and you can actually take a much more beautiful ridge to the right and just climb that ridge and continue on the ridge, or you can continue on the main trail and you're still down in the forest, and a little descent, ascent. There's also some ascent and descent on this trail that splits off. However, I think probably the elevation gain and loss on both of them is about the same. The only difference is on this trail, if you hug the center of this ridge all the way up, and you can see a little trail actually ascending there if you look carefully. You just ascend this ridge, you're going to see beautiful views of Mummy Mountain and at a bit Fletcher Peak all the way up, as opposed to being down in the forest. So I like to go this way, even if it means just a little bit more ascent and descent, but it's not that much. And you can see the toe of Mummy Mountain emerging. At the base of that toe is Rain Tree, which is our next destination. Over this way, you can see a couple washes on the left, and then the delta of washes on the right. And it's that center wash that we're going to ascend. And actually, let me put my walking sticks down so I can show you a little better. We're going to ascend that one on the left. There should be an opening in that canyon at the top of that wash there, and it should take me to the base of that band of trees halfway up the cliff, or 3/4 of the way up the cliff. Take a right there, then a left after that band ends, right after that upper cliff ends, and right on up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. And again, the whole challenge is getting over to this delta, which involves crossing some forest area that's uncharted. So we'll see what happens there. We're going to find a route. We've tried a few different times, and always ending up. There's a little vortex here that leads up to, you see these, I guess this is the knee of Mummy, and it leads up to the knee of Mummy, and then it looks like, oh, you could just ascend right up to the top. Well, some people have done it, but it involves a little more rock climbing experience and agility and comfort than I have, because that's not an unbroken route from that point on the the left rock and on up to the up that little cliff to the summit of Mummy Mountain. At least I haven't tried it yet. Maybe one of these days I'll try it, but I'm just a little leery. That's beyond this trail runner's comfort zone. Okay, so here we go on up. The next section, I'm going to hug this ridge and go right up the center of this ridge, and we'll see more beautiful views unfolding along the way up. Here's your reward for taking the high road, ascending up that ridge. You reach a high point where you got a great view of Fletcher Peak, panning across to Griffith Peak, and then in this direction. And by the way, before Fletcher Peak, there is La Madre Mountain. So you see some pretty cool things. You could see Gas Peak also on a clear day. I'm not going to even try today. There's just too much haze. But here you go. And then down in this area is where the trail breaks off. The North Loop Trail takes a right and crosses this this bare spot here, open spot, it takes a left off the North Loop Trail, sorry. And you cross that bare spot and then head on up to Fletcher Peak. So that is in that direction. Now let's see what we can see to the west. And here you can see awesome view of Mummy Mountain opening up. And let's see if we can get a really clear view. By the way, that ridge you're seeing just to the left of the toe of Mummy Mountain is the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. And there you see that stretch between Griffith Peak along the south ridge of Kyle Canyon to the right of Griffith Peak. And then where it becomes bare, that's the upper south ridge. And you hit a junction right at that place where the trees end on that south ridge, and then on up to Mount Charleston. Okay, so here's the toe of Mummy Mountain, and you get a very good view. I'm going to put my hiking sticks down, and okay, here's the toe, and we'll go up to the toe at some point. Right in this area is Mummy Springs. So we're going to descend to Rain Tree, which is at the base, the left base of that toe. Well, right at the base there of the left side of that toe. And then we're going to take a right skirt along the base of that cliff area over to Mummy Springs. And then find a way to cross over to the delta here. You can't see the full delta as in earlier views, but you see there's a wide wash, and there's another wash you can barely see just to the left of it, fanning out to the left. And it's that wash to the left that I want to find. Who knows what kind of forest we're going to need to cross on the way to that wash. And then we'll take that wash up to well, at the top there's a little spot where it ascends between a ridge there and up to that band of trees. Take a right at the band of trees, and then at the base of that upper cliff, take a left and on up to the summit. That's one route. Another route potentially is to take that wide wash to the right of the delta, and it looks like you might be able to ascend right up this area. You can see bands of trees, and I've heard people have been able to ascend this. Who knows what we'd face, though, along the way up. That's another route, though. Okay, so the key is getting to the delta there, which involves crossing over some uncharted trailless wilderness, and missing a few cliffs. So anyway, onward and upward. Next stop is Rain Tree. By the way, it took me about, from the last place that we stopped, about 15 minutes to get to this point. 10-15. Okay, signing off. Quick note, we're along the north trail, continuing. It's just above Rain Tree, and there you can see the toe of Mummy Mountain. But the reason I'm stopping here is that you'll notice that there is a sawn-off log, and it's the second of a series of 2 sawn-off logs. There's one up the trail. So you hit 2 of those, and the important thing about this second one is that you take a left here. It's unmarked. There's no trail marker at all. But you take a left here, and you can see a kind of trail. And there is a pretty decent trail. Head up to Fletcher Peak. So we'll be revisiting this if we are successful in finding our way up to the top of the west side of Mummy Mountain. A loop that would include Fletcher Peak, Mummy Mountain, Lee Peak, 3-peak loop is possible. So we'll see. That's kind of a dream. So to this point, it's been very elusive, but maybe we'll knock off a little bit more of the mystery section that starts at Mummy Springs. Okay, onward. Okay, here we are approaching Raintree, and an extraordinary quiet moment on this approach. Nobody's here, which is very, very rare, unless they're hiding behind some trees. Anyway, okay, here is where the trail splits. If you want to go down to the Trail Canyon Junction and down to the Trail Canyon Trailhead, you're gonna travel about, three and a half miles to the left. On the other hand, what we're going to do is we're taking the right branch here toward Mummy Springs and onward to see if we can reach that delta I spoke about a moment ago, and we'll see the what lies between Mummy Springs Trail and that delta in a moment. Okay, so in the meantime, here is Raintree. This is a 3,000-year-old bristlecone pine, very well positioned in this protected area. And boy, you look up here, and it's got to be one of the most beautiful creations ever imagined. Who could have imagined this? In 3,000 years, you couldn't have created such beauty as this tree. So, anyway, there you have it. Here's Raintree, and here we are looking straight up to the sky. See the canopy there? What an amazing work. So one of the grand sights on the way to the east side of Mummy Mountain and that approach to the summit. And I've actually heard that that approach is more, the more popular approach, or the more standard approach than the one on the west side, which is up on Avalanche Ridge, and you can see on the Mummy Mountain page, western route on Las Vegas area trails. But I tell you, for a more popular route, finding that route is sure presenting a difficult puzzle. So here we go, the umpteenth attempt to reach that delta to the right of Mummy Springs. By the way, at the base of Raintree, or very close to it, is what I'd like to refer to as Raintree 3,000 years ago. There's a little baby Raintree, and 3,000 years from now, wow, if we protect our environment and do what we need to do to protect this earth, we'll have another version of Raintree, and maybe this version here will be 6,000 years old. Who knows? But I'd like to envision that is what we're headed toward. Another 3,000 years on this earth, conquering all of our environmental issues and reaching a point where this tree looks like this tree. Okay, here we are at Mummy Springs, and you can see the springs right here. The water stain on the rock at this point. It's a water stain, but the fact that it's still there shows that there is water running over that rock, even in late August. And by the way, if you come up here in November or around that time, you will see a huge ice cascade at Mummy Springs. So just something to look forward to. Ice cascade right where that rock is, has the water coming down. Guess that water continues to build up when it's sub-freezing temperatures. Okay, the reason we're looking at this is somehow we've got to cross over this area, maybe below that cliff or above the cliff. I am not sure at this point. There are two potential routes, and we'll take a look at them. But the delta that I was talking about is on the other side of this ridge, and getting across it, and then descending, and then again ascending. The next wash is to the right of the next wash is going to be the major challenge. After we ascend, if we can get across this ridge, then dip down into the next wash, ascend to the top of the far side of that wash, I believe we'll be looking at the delta. And that will be a huge victory. But anyway, here we are, onward. Okay, the trail continues past the base of Mummy Springs, and there's a little, they have 5-10 feet of rocky, bushy confusion, but the trail then resumes, and as you can see, it is a pretty decent trail. And what it's going to do, and there's looking back at the toe of Mummy Mountain, what this trail is going to do is, looking ahead now, is it's going to switch back up that ridge we looked at where there was a cliff. It's going to switch back to the top of that cliff, but we're going to look at each far switchback and see if there is a way directly across to the next ridge beyond the wash that is just over this corner. And that is where we'll be staring at the delta, that elusive delta. Okay, onward. Okay, we're at the end of one of those switchbacks, and at this, from this far end, you can see beyond the trees there is a cliff, and I'm thinking one way of getting to the other side of that cliff, which is what we need to do, and then we'll be staring down from the top of that cliff to the delta washes. But getting to the other side of that cliff, as you can see, would involve from this direction some real unmarked traverse across a lot of wilderness area. Who knows what we're going to be climbing over and experiencing. So I'm going to ascend a little further and see if I can find a way to skirt that cliff and this wash down here to the area beyond that cliff. Anyway, so let's see what happens. Okay, just a few steps beyond where I was. It looks like there is a kind of a route. You can see right up this rocky area. See, what we want to do is not have to go to the other side of that cliff. I'm going to take this just to see what things look like a little above this area, and just scope out the lower area down here. Okay. Okay, heading up diagonally and to the right of that last point. We see the cliff of the next ridge, and hopefully over that ridge we can look down upon the delta area. It looks like there might be a way right up this area. So I would need to go up a little more and then skirt over to the right. It's kind of interesting that when you go with the logical route, sometimes you end up coming upon a trail. Other people have taken that route, and we'll see. There might be some connectors up here. It almost looks like there is, that I wouldn't be the first person to ascend this next ridge right here, but we don't know. Let's just go up there and see what we can find. A little further along here, not much. As I mentioned, sometimes a trail will appear if you go up a logical route, and it looks like it's not what you would consider a trail, but it looks like I'm not the first one to traverse this area. I can see where the slope evens out just for a little band, somebody having crossed this slope right at this point. So we're continuing on up. Hopefully this will actually turn into something that's going to guide me over this cliff ridge. I'll hit it up the top of it up there and be hopefully looking down at that mysterious elusive delta. By the way, when you're traversing wilderness, one thing to be aware of is how are you going to get back? And you see a ridge up there. That ridge beyond those trees is the ridge I was standing on a moment ago, the high ridge where I overlooked Mummy Mountain, and to the base of that is, you can't really see it in this video, but you kind of see it in real life here. There's a saddle, and then it goes on up to Fletcher Peak, and I can kind of see where Fletcher Peak is. Anyway, these are landmarks that I'm going to need to look at if I'm going to nail the return trail and not end up, you know, going down this direction, which would be really painful. But you know, it's worst comes to worst. Yeah, this probably ends at the highway, and then I'm walking up the highway, and I don't want to do that though, because that is just a huge deviation from where I want to be. So best scenario is I actually get up Mummy Mountain and then come around the come down the west side, of which I'm more familiar, and then take the trail around the base of Mummy Mountain and back to Rain Tree. I'd love for that to happen, but if I don't make the summit, I got to head back down this direction, and maybe along the way I'll find a better route that I have missed up to now. So this is part of just, I guess, you know, I could get a guide and have my way directed up through wilderness like this. But you know, the deal is that if you discover this yourself, then you end up knowing the mountain completely, and I'll end up knowing the west side of Mummy Mountain completely by the time I'm done getting up to the top of Mummy Mountain. I mean the east side of Mummy Mountain. I know the west side very completely, but I'll be knowing the east side of Mummy Mountain. And I like to say that after I've made a summit, you could drop me down blindfolded any place along in that whole mountainous area in the middle of the forest, and I'd be able to find my way out. So that's one of the benefits of getting so familiar with the wilderness area and just discovering things yourself. And sometimes you discover routes that are better than the routes that other people have taken. Who knows? But anyway, onward we go. Okay, continuing to the top of that cliff ridge, and still looks like there's a little area where I'm not the first person to pass through this area. Sometimes when I see a place that looks kind of like a place people have traveled before, it's not people, but it's where deer travel. So that would not help me at all. But it looks like I just continue right up here and I'm going to hit the top of this ridge. Then we see something we have not seen before. What is beyond this ridge? And is there a way down the other side without going over the edge of a cliff? So onward and upward. By the way, it always helps to kind of scope out your return trip. If I have to return this route, I see the Toe of Mummy ahead there, and I see a couple, let's see, mounds. Got to watch where I'm stepping here. Not real secure. I see you see a hill of green to the left there through the trees, and then what looks like a little saddle, and then another hill begins beyond that, and then you have the Toe of Mummy. Anyway, at the base of the toe is Rain Tree. So on the way back, I would just skirt this area and keep the toe of Mummy Mountain in view as much as possible. And my intention would be to reconnect with that Mummy Springs Trail. That's always the hope. So onward we go, up to the top of this next ridge and looking over the top. Okay, here we are at the top of that ridge, and you can see where hopefully that's the other side of Mummy Mountain, which means that this is, I'm looking down upon where, you know, the wash that splits into that delta right at the base of where I am here. So I'm going to continue on up and diagonal my way to the base of this wash, maybe looking for any signs of a trail or route. So that's potentially good news. We may be at that mysterious delta, but we just have to get down to it now. And I'm going to try to get to it by continuing pretty evenly along this traverse here. And hopefully I'll reach that delta without having to descend a whole lot of distance, as you can see down there. I tried to go straight to it. Yeah, there's descent, probably some cliffs. So anyway, I am going to mark a spot here so that when I come back down this ridge, I know where to turn right. That's going to be very, very important. So, and who knows if I'll even be here, but we'll see. I'm in the middle of nowhere, actually, and kind of tracking through the wilderness here. By the way, look up Tom Brown, Native American or Apache tracker on Google, and you'll see a true tracker who has a series of books that are very enlightening. Haven't read them all yet, but I'm familiar with the philosophy. I went out in the wilderness with one of the people that went to his school and learned a whole lot of things about tracking through the wilderness. We'll see if all that comes in handy. Who knows? Okay, onward. Okay, mildly brutal descent into this wash, and you can see there's a cliff area above us. Looks like there's signs of somebody passing this area. So we see another ridge that we're facing, and I just don't think this is the Delta Wash at this point. So I'm going to assume that we go up this next ridge and then look down and see where we're at. And hopefully we'll be looking down to the Delta from that ridge. If this is the start of the Delta Wash, then I will have overshot it, which will be a little adventure story in itself. So anyway, I just came through this. If you can see any signs of a trail through that, then you're doing better than I am. So the way back is going to be to ascend up this ridge and then circle down the ridge a little bit till I see the cairn that I created, and then take a right and on back to my starting point. So if all works well, then yes, that's going to happen. By the way, the only reason I can do this today, unstable ground always, the only reason I can do this today is it's an entirely clear day. And if it were cloudy or foggy, I don't think I'd try this unless I'd done it, 5 or 6 times in good visibility. So onward up this ridge, and let's look over the top and see what we can see. Another verification that if you follow a logical route, you will come across at different points on that route signs of other people or deer having taken that route. Here is, looking ahead, definitely signs of passage through this route. And when on my way back, I'm going to head to the down this little route to the bottom of this wash, and I'll see cliffs to the right, and to the left I will see that ridge that we stood upon a bit ago. And by the way, here is another landmark, which is the Mount Charleston Observatory. Let's see. There we go. There's the Mount Charleston Observatory. So it's always good to know your landmarks. I will proceed to the top of this ridge, taking a diagonal left from that wash on the way back, and find the cairn that I created, and then just skirt that area till I hit the Mummy Springs Trail, where I left the last human trail visible. Okay, it's always good to look back and ask yourself, how will I get back through this wilderness? By the way, you saw signs in the last video of some pretty thick underbrush, and here we are in Nevada in the heat of the summer, and people think, oh, snakes and spiders. And I got to say, in the last 3 years of my wilderness wanderings, and since I moved to Nevada in 2016, it's 2019 now, so I've been here 3.5 years. I have not seen one snake. I have not seen in the wilderness even one spider. Not many spider webs. So, and you've seen the kind of wilderness that I traverse. So if you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be attacked by hundreds of snakes that are going to jump out at me, just be careful, make noise. They're more afraid of you than you are of them, and leave them alone. It's their territory. If you find them, but realize 3 years I have not seen one. And so just a little note. Don't be scared by what other people say. Okay, onward. Okay, I've topped that next ridge, and now I'm looking down into yet another wash. Looks like I'm on a slightly traveled section of this slope, and I'm going to keep traversing this slope until I get even with the wash down there, and we will be able to see more of Mummy Mountain. There you can see it faintly. Have we gone enough washes that we actually are going up the final wash that takes us up the east side of Mummy Mountain, or is there yet another ridge? That is a monster ridge. I hope that that ridge is not part of what I need to ascend. But it looks like there might be evidence of two washes here down at the bottom, which says to me Delta. I keep hoping, but there's a good chance that this is actually, you know, when I get to the bottom here, I will be on that mysterious Delta. We shall see. Okay, here is ultimate proof I am indeed on the Delta. You can see the wash down here. So I had to cross, what was it, 2 or 3 ridges. I better know the count on my way back if I'm heading back this way. Anyway, the reason I know I'm on that Delta is I'm looking straight up, and you see that band of trees. And now you can see kind of an opening in the cliff to the left. That's what I'm shooting for, and we're going to see if that actually takes us up to the summit. We want to get to that band of trees and be standing on that ledge, and then we have made it to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Eating up a lot of time here. Let's see, I started at 7, it's now 10. So minus about a half hour for videos. We're looking at 2.5 hours to get to this point. And should I come down Mummy Mountain, first we got to get up to see you know what's possible. And you've got that band of trees, that little opening to the left of the band of trees on the cliff ledge, about 3/4 of the way up the cliff. That is home free. On the other hand, maybe I will take a more eastern route right up this area, and I hear this can be done also. But the good news is that we are now looking at routes that have been taken before, and it's only a matter of testing them out. And the hope I get to the top of Mummy Mountain, and then I'm going to head down the familiar west side and hit the main trail down there. I don't know if I am up to turning around and taking this this route through all these bushes and trees on the way down. Okay, I just want a real trail. Okay, so onward we go. Lots of discoveries, but the good news, we've discovered the Delta area, and here is the area from which we can see 2 potential approaches to the summit of Mummy Mountain. I believe I'm on the middle Delta. Why do I believe that? Because it looks like there's a wash to the left and another wash to the right. So this looks like the middle, and another reason it looks like the middle is here's that band of trees 3/4 of the way up the, well, now it looks like it's more like 4/5 of the way up that cliff. And if you look carefully, you can see a potential little canyon approach that will hopefully take us up and to the left of that band of trees where we will summit to that ridge and then continue off to the right and then up to the top of Mummy Mountain. Who knows what we're going to face up here, but if worse comes to worse, we'll just head over to the right delta, and which is over this ridge before that huge ridge there, and we'll head up that way. So it looks like we've got two potential opportunities to get to the summit from here. I may have to conserve on my videos here, down to 45%. And as I mentioned, sometimes you see where a path crosses. Maybe on the way down I would take this if I come down this way. Here's another sign of somebody has traversed this area before me. I'm gonna see if I can hold to the signs of foot passage, and once again getting closer to the final approach cliff and hopefully a passageway between those cliffs. Okay, we are at the base of Mummy Cliff, and it's pretty clear that there are only two potential choices for us. One is heading up that direction and ascending, and it looks like it is possible. That is when we were looking at the delta a bit ago, that is the delta to the right. There's no heading up the cliff here, but there's a potential second approach around the corner up there. Not sure. I'm tempted to head up this direction because I'm not sure, where the band of trees went. I don't know if there's an opening to that band up here, or if it's back up this direction where the opening is. So who knows? Maybe I'll try them both. And looks like I can traverse across the base of the cliff where that tree line is from one potential approach to the other. So I think the best approach is to go up this direction to the left and see what things look like up there, and then if that doesn't look good, then we'll just traverse along this tree line here and head over to the other approach. Okay, so anyway, we're further and looking at more possibilities than we've ever seen before on the on the east side of Mummy Mountain. By the way, just to let you know, I just came up this. It's sort of like the avalanche slope on the west side of Mummy Mountain, and definitely a very healthy slope. Beautiful bristle cones the whole way up, but definitely you can see by the angle of the trees that this is a very healthy incline. Okay, onward. Well, it looks like there could be an opening over there that goes right up between these two rocks, and the opening would be right down here, and that is a second opening, which tends to, if you're coming from the other direction, it's from the direction I'm looking at, actually, by going in the other direction. From everything that I've read, you take the second opening and it takes you up. But getting down there is going to be a very interesting traverse here, because I've got to get around the edge of that cliff down there and then take a right. And then there's no guarantee that's going to lead us up but you know, I think I'm going to go for it, do some sliding here along the edge of the avalanche slope and try that crack between these two rocks. Proceeding along a very narrow ledge here at the base of the cliff, and as you can see ahead, this is what I was hoping, that there is an opening there. Whether that opening is the one that I want, that's going to lead where, you know, up to the summit, we don't know. But I'm going to try that and see where it leads. If it doesn't make it up there, then I'm going to need to traverse back along the base of this cliff, which is going to be slow going, but it's doable till I get to the far other side. Now, I'm told take the second opening. This seems to be the second opening. The first opening appears to be over at the base of that cliff. So everything that I know says that we are on track, but we'll find out. By the way, to give you an idea of what's below me, there is the avalanche slope, and to get to where I'm standing right here, I traversed right along the edge of this cliff. So it's doable, but definitely not my favorite trail experience. The main thing, we want to get to the top of Mummy Mountain from the east side. So here we go. We've never gotten this far before. Well, heading up that crack that I was pointing out a little earlier, looks like it levels out a little bit, and this may be a route. I don't know. We'll see. We'll go a little further. But just to give you an idea, boy, I hope I don't have to go down this. This is what I just came up. And I tell you, it is definitely a slidey spot. So let's just hope I can get to the top of Mummy Mountain going up this way. Please, please, please. Here's the last thing I expected to encounter on this last Saturday in August. Snow. So we're continuing on up. I hope there's a way past that little cliff area. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll weave around and then above. Maybe that's the way to go. Anyway, the key to this chute seems to be to hang to the left side. As you can see, this is what I just came up so far. And so the best footing appears to be on the left side, changing to the right side up here due to the snow. So onward, please let this arrive at the top. Okay, here is the crack I just came up, and I hope I don't need to go back down there. Looks like you've got to traverse this direction, and we actually may be looking at the summit ledge, just under the summit, that ledge we've been on before, just beyond that dead tree. But I got to get there. So this should be an interesting little traverse up ahead. Definitely don't want to get too close to the edge of this. Lose your footing and it's curtains. So up we go, up this area, seeing if we can traverse over to the what looks like it could be the final approach. If not, we got to head back down this and then through the wilderness, and oh boy, that's gonna be a long trip. I can definitely see the summit ledge from here, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. I got to traverse this cliff. That just doesn't look right. Maybe I should have headed up that other crack down that way. Don't know, but here we are. That area right there leads up to the summit. Like I said, I don't know if I can get over there. If not, I've got to head all the way back down. What a mess. So anyway, let's continue on and see what we can experience here. Well, how I made it up that last ledge, right up the side of a rock wall with a cliff beneath me. I will never want to repeat that. So if this is the Mummy Loop, I'll tell you what I'm going to do to add Mummy and Fletcher Peak to the loop is I'm going to go across the top of Mummy, down the east side, and the west side again. So retrace my steps, get back on the main trail, and then there is no doing this at the end of or even at the beginning of a Mount Charleston experience. It's already noon, so I've got a ways to go. Here we're looking at right below the ledge. So I need to skirt this cliff and get to that point where there's the dead tree. And it looks doable, but I tell you, who knows what we're facing. But I know that is the ledge that leads to the top of Mummy Mountain. And once I've made it up this route once, the way I'm feeling now, I will probably never repeat this. Okay, onward. My phone decided to update, Android update, just at this point. So it took a while to let that happen. Anyway, here is the final approach to that ledge. I think I've made it. No promises till I get up there. But whoa, what a celebration that's going to be. Okay. Well, great news. I came up the last portion. It's actually, that last part was very easy. And I'm standing on that ledge just below the summit that had the trees lined along it. We looked at that from below. So I have stood here before. I've come down to this point from the summit and gone back up a number of times. And now I know how this approach works. I did it exactly right. But I don't think I want to do it ever again. That's how I feel right now. So this is not going to be part of a 3-peak or Mummy, Mummy Fletcher, Lee Peak. No, it's not going to be part of that 3-peak circuit. I'll take that circuit another direction, which will involve some retracing of steps. But that retracing of steps is nothing compared to hanging on the edge of eternity like I have for the past hour, and just praying that I do not slip and then go over the edge of one of those cliffs. So the good news is I'm home free. I know how to get back to the main trail. I know how to get back to the main trail on the west side of Mummy and then circle around and head back down the North Loop Trail. It's going to be quite a long experience, but at least there's nothing scary left. So anyway, yes, I have made it up the west side of Mummy. I've gone the official approach, but no, I'm not going to do this again, at least the way I'm feeling right now. It's just too precarious in a few spots, and I nearly lost it in one spot back there, which is about the hardest spot. But I made it! Yay! So onward, now I'm going to go along this ledge and up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Well, here I am on that ledge we were looking at. You can see the trees that line the ledge and the cliff that is above the ledge. So this is what that ledge looks like when you're on it. And we saw that from below. And here's the part that I just traversed along the top of the ledge. I'm still kind of coming to terms with the feeling that I actually made it, and in one piece especially. And like I said, I don't want to do this route again. I think I made the exact route that is recommended. So yes, it was the way to go. I might try the right area of that delta, the right branch of that delta we were looking at a moment ago. Maybe that's less harrowing. So that's a possibility. But yeah, see how I'm thinking. I'm already a little past the scary part, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can do this again. But not the route that I just took. At least, yeah, maybe ask me tomorrow, and I'll say, yeah, maybe I could do that again. I don't know. If tomorrow David says that, just tell him not even to think about it. Tell him to knock that thought out of his mind. Today, David says, no, don't do that route again. Anyway, okay, I'm going along this ledge, and then I'm going to take a left and head up to the summit. Okay, this is what I mean when I said I've tested, by the time I get to summits, I've tested the mountain so many times that you could drop me down somewhere and I'd find my way. Because I've tested this route so many times, I'm able to know where I am and an alternate way to get back home without taking that harrowing route that I just took. So I'm taking a left now, and you can see it's not a bad little climb. There's even a kind of trail leads right up to the summit, and give another view of the area. There's the other side of Mummy Mountain, and here's where that ledge I was just on, where it rounds the corner and heads up. And so everything is looking great. I've done this part of the Mummy experience many times. Nothing scary left, just a whole lot of endurance running. So at this point, things are starting to come into focus, like the beauty of the trees, the beauty of the rocks, the cliff, and the vistas here. Yeah, see, I can see all this now. I couldn't see it when I was hanging on the edge of eternity. Now, one thing that we might want to look at, though, is if I had taken that, let's take a closer look here. If I had taken that right approach on the right delta, what we would be looking at is there's where we would be ascending. It's avalanche slope, And then right about this spot, you see those trees down there, we would just head up that area. And actually, I gotta say that it's a lot less harrowing if you're ever thinking of coming up the west side of Mummy Mountain. Don't do the route I took. Stick to the right delta and then head up right through this area. It looks to me like there is less cliff to encounter. Not sure. I could be wrong, but I see a couple openings here. I see something right here that could be a crack. And I see something over, see this avalanche hill, trace it down. If it doesn't end in a cliff, that's a possibility too. That's for another day. I've done enough for today. All I want to do is get to the summit of Mummy Mountain up here and celebrate that, and then head down the familiar west side back to the Trail Canyon Trail. And then when I hit that junction, I'm going to take a left and circle around on the North Climb Trail, because my car is at the trailhead to the North Climb, or the North Loop Trail. So I can't just shoot down a Trail Canyon like I would have otherwise. Okay. Anyway, and here's the ledge again. And it's just good to be up here and to be alive and be celebrating again and enjoying everything around me. Okay, so upward. Yay, I made it to the top of Mummy Mountain from the east side. Nearly lost my life, but here we have Chauvin and Caleb, who made it up the west side of Mummy Mountain and have hiked all around this area. So they're going to be maybe bringing some of their people from their office up and hiking around here. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
We both made the summit.
Congrats to you for making it up the east side without dying.
Yeah. Don't try it unless you have your insurance paid up and a rope maybe. Anyway, okay, well, congratulations, and I'll see you probably again.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, heading down the familiar west side of Mummy Mountain, and you can look at the Mummy Mountain West page of LasVegasAreaTrails.com and see this ascent, descent, heading down the V-shaped canyon here, and then along that ledge that's straight ahead, and down an avalanche slope, and then to the base of the slope where I hit the trail again, finally, yay, and take a left and head back down to where I started. So, okay, onward. Just descended the avalanche slope on the west side of Mummy Mountain, and hallelujah, we are on regular trails for the first time since about, let's see, for the first time in 6 hours. We are now on